I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Barton. You're watching Black T News. Hello. Welcome to Black T News. I'm your host, Christina Barton. Today, we're going to be talking about Kamala Harris lying, telling one of the craziest lies she's ever probably told on Shannon Sharpe's show. I've not seen the full thing, but this thing is circulating around. I already wrote a post about it online, but she's trying to make it seem like Trump is a big threat to your First Amendment, Second Amendment rights, and so on. And he's not perfect on those. I think there's Republicans who are stronger in those areas, but she's saying, I don't want to take away anyone's guns. That's actually false. It's a proven lie. She has a record, and I don't just mean things she said. I mean things that she supported, things that she's actually supported. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that. Probably talk about that first because that's the thing I'm most hot about. That's the thing I first saw today. The last thing I saw today. So I'm before I came on the air. So I'm most high about that. So we're probably going to start there. We're going to talk about Michelle Obama and her scolding men and etc. and the crap that she said over the weekend. And also Jake Tapper, who came in hot with JD Vance and tried to make it seem like, I don't know, see no evil with all the stuff they did with the Russia collusion story and narrative and stuff. So I'm so amazed with these people and how much they're phoning it in. Like it's incredible how much the Harris campaign has lied, but it's incredible how much the actual media has they're phoning it in. The way that the Washington Post and the liberals and stuff were so mad because they didn't endorse, specifically Jeff Bezos didn't want to endorse, and it's his newspaper. And he probably didn't want to endorse because the election's really close and Kamala Harris is probably going to lose. She might lose, probably. And he probably thinks her economic ideas are stupid as well. But it's probably because they're not confident she's going to win. So why bother making the paper look stupid? So anyway, lots of thoughts to get to today. Before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate because it does cost a stream, run my website, all that good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. If you would like to give directly on Facebook, you guys can send stars. Watching on YouTube, you guys can do super chats, and I appreciate that. If you can do that. Also check out different stuff that we have at the store, like the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For t-shirt. And we got the Be Better Not Bitter and all kinds of different stuff. We got the goat hoodies and goat t-shirts. I do have them in different colors, so you don't have to just get them in white. Got pink and red and other colors and stuff, so check that out. You guys can also check out some of my different books that I've written. I have 18 that are all together. 2 are nonfiction, the rest are fiction. So if you got a reader in your life or you like to read for Christmas, I get stuff for all my siblings and my my parents. Well, my mom just passed away, but everybody in the family, immediate household, my nieces and my nephews, get everybody something. But I like to get something for myself if I can. So maybe you're a reader and you want to read yourself, and you can pick up yourself a little book or something. But I got 18 all together. Two of my nonfiction books. One is Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear, and the other one would be, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. So that is available on Amazon because I have a second edition. The second edition is the only one available now. That one's only available on Amazon right now. But if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, which most of you usually do it that way and not Twitch, but there should be a link in the description that should take you to my Amazon page. But otherwise, if you go to blacktnews.com, there's a link in the merchandise page that will take you over to my book website if you want to learn more. On the 3rd, which is, gosh, is that this Sunday? Oh my gosh, it is this Thursday, this Sunday. I will be in Ann Arbor for Book Fest, K Book Fest, and from 10 to 12, that's my signing time. So I will be sharing a table with somebody, and I'll have my books there. So you guys want a signed copy, you guys can go there and get a signed copy of one of my books. And that weekend on the 8th, 9th, and 10th, I will be at Motor City Comic Con. I will have a space in Artist Alley. And so that will be fun. I've done Motor City many times, and I hope to see some of you there. If I have any other events before the end of the year, I'll let you know. I know there's going to be, I'll be at the Oakland County Book Fair, the Oakland County OU, but I don't remember the date on that, but that's in December. But anyway, that's my announcements. Now I got to get to this video that may be hot, like angry hot. Like the audacity of Kamala Harris. So we're going to start. Now, she was on the Shannon Sharpe show, which I'm not surprised. By the way, Shannon Sharpe, I may have, let's just say he was interested in interviewing both. I don't know if Trump is going to go along and go on Shannon Sharpe shows too. Shannon Sharpe has done very well with his podcast. His Cat Williams episode was just insane. So he does very, very well with his podcast. So I'm not surprised if he can get the vice president and the former president on his podcast. Why wouldn't he do that? So unfortunately, Shannon Sharpe, I think is I had said intellectually undeveloped. But maybe just misinformed or uninformed would have been kinder to say. I didn't feel like being kind when I wrote that. Maybe that wasn't very nice of me, but I guess it's just a mean way of saying that he's just misinformed. Now, I didn't expect him to grill her by any means, and I don't know how he would respond with that John Legend thing. And John Legend was on his show lying about Chrissy Teigen's it's not even a miscarriage. She had a placenta abruption, and her baby was like at 20 weeks. So they delivered him early, and he couldn't survive at that point. And they held him and took photos. I don't know who was taking the photos, but they were taking photos and stuff, and they put them on Instagram and shared their really intimate, hurtful moment on Instagram. And which people did find kind of weird at the time. But they tried to save her son, and sometime later, John Legend convinced Chrissy Teigen that she actually had an abortion, and so now John Legend is like, "Yeah, that was an abortion. Women need to have access to abortion and stuff to save people's lives." I'm like, that's one, not what people primarily use it for, and two, that wasn't an abortion. And Shannon Sharpe just wasn't informed enough to push back on John Legend, and maybe he wouldn't want to anyway. So I don't know. There's a lot of serious topics that are discussed on the show that are just from time to time. And he's just not informed enough to really speak on a lot of things that people speak on in a show. So Kamala Harris was on a show. And if there's any history that people should be aware of, it's Kamala Harris's history with the Second Amendment, because there's clip after clip after clip after clip. It's not like she said it one time and it's buried somewhere. Clip after clip after clip of her saying that she wanted mandatory buybacks. It's more the mandatory buybacks that we're going to talk about right now. But let me play this little snippet. Let me play the snippet for you guys, and we'll go from there. Okay.
Taking anybody's guns away?
I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was.
Blacks for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
They feel that Trump is better for the black community. Can you explain Donald Trump's history with blacks? Where did this come that all of a sudden? I mean, it's been like this.
Well, hold on a second. Let me just Let's look at her face for a second when she says that.
Blacks for Trump.
Mhm.
Oh, the contempt on her face. Just no respect. No respect. At least I don't feel respected or whatever. But okay, let's and you know what? I hate the thing I hate about politics the most is how people lie. If you lie to me, I feel like that is such a great form of disrespect. Just be honest. You know, just be honest. Don't blatantly lie to me, especially about something that's really stupid, just verifiable. If you lie to me, I just don't think you respect me. I don't think you respect me. And and the boldness and the rate to which she lies is incredible. Perhaps unprecedented. perhaps. Perhaps. But this isn't good body language. This isn't good body language. But let's keep going.
They feel that Trump is better for the black community. Can you explain the Donald Trump's history with blacks? Where did this come that all of a sudden? I mean, it's been like this because a lot of people used to say, I'm Donald Trump of the ghetto. For a lot of blacks, not all, but for some blacks, he was, Madam VP, whether we want to admit it or not, he's revered by some blacks.
But here's the thing. The question for everybody, should he be president of the United States?
Okay.
Right? That's the question. Should he have the ability to sit behind the seal of the president of the United States when he says he wants to terminate the Constitution of the United States? You know what that
That's
would
not
mean?
what he said.
In the Constitution of the United States is your
when she's referring to a tweet that Donald Trump tweeted, and I'm gonna be frank, it wasn't a great tweet, but the context and the way that they use this tweet is not accurate. Like he just wanted to throw everything out, specifically about like the election stuff and how if I'm being generous, I think I would interpret it as the way in which he was saying that people did things that weren't accurate with the Constitution if the founders knew that they would I don't know, try to do something different to prevent it or something like that. It wasn't a good tweet. I tried to look at it all kinds of different ways. And you could say, well, if you don't know exactly what it means or can it, then how come she can't be right? Donald Trump was already president, guys. Like, should he be president? Should he stand behind the seal? Okay, if he has a record that we can judge him on, and did he try to suspend everybody's rights while he was president? Did he, I don't know, do mandatory vaccines or rather coerce people into taking the jab and all kinds of crazy stuff that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden did? You know, he had opportunities to act, you know, in the ways that they describe, but he didn't, you know, and I have plenty of receipts that I could show, and I will show you guys about Kamala Harris. I mean, you guys could go watch the 50 reasons video not to vote for Kamala Harris video, and that's where a lot of the receipts are. And I'll play a couple to showcase how bad she is on some of these issues. But they're saying she's going to rant about he wants to terminate the entire Constitution and get rid of the First Amendment, Second Amendment, all that stuff. And that's just in no way there's any indication that that is his actual desire. You know? So anyway, let's watch this.
Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable search and seizure. Your Fifth Amendment right. Your Sixth Amendment right to an attorney.
Well, a lot of rights going to be gone. The First Amendment.
But the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. Yes. Look, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment. I don't believe we should be taking anybody's guns away.
Kamala Harris says she doesn't believe we should be taking anybody's guns away. When I said like there are definitely Republicans that are better than Trump on the Second Amendment, I would say like Trump was entertaining the red flag laws at one point, and he said Mike Pence was like, well, you got to do due process, and he said, we'll do. He's like, I like taking the guns and due process later. That was a wild thing. That was a wild thing, and I don't think enough Republicans remembered that or talked about it during the primaries. And even when I mentioned it to some Republicans, they're like, that didn't happen. I'm like, here's the link. Like, what are you talking about? But even if Trump did say wild things like that, usually someone would talk to him and, it would kind of be like, dude, like, what are you saying? That's a wild thing that you said. But he wouldn't actually implement wild things that are too wild. There was the bump stocks ban that was, an infringement, which that got overturned. So, doesn't have a perfect history with the Second Amendment, but if you think Kamala Harris is better and you believe the lie that she doesn't want to take your guns away, oh boy. So here's the deal. Why is Kamala Harris having an issue with men? And she's apparently having an issue with men. She actually had a hot mic moment with my governor, unfortunate governor, Gretchen Whitmer, in a bar and said, something about closing the gap with men. And she's like, oh, we got there's all these microphones around us. And I don't know how intentional that was, because it just seemed really stupid. Like, of course, there's cameras everywhere. There's microphones everywhere. So I don't know. So did she want everyone to hear that? I don't know. But she has been having an issue with men. And the reason why she has an issue with men is because she's focused on so many of the wrong things. And we'll get to that. Some of the things that she's focused on that are wrong and things that men actually do care about. But she doesn't respect men. And I don't mean that in a hyperbolic way. Again, to sit there, look Shannon Sharpe in the eye and say, I don't want to take anyone's guns away. She told that Negro that. She looked in his eye and told him that, and expected the audience to believe that, to swallow that, and just go, oh my gosh, it's Trump though. He wants to get rid of the whole Constitution, when so many of the Democrats and voters or whatever don't seem to care too much about the Constitution, because they'll say stuff like, well, that wasn't written for Black and brown people, and just all kinds of crazy stuff I've heard through the years. With Elise Crystal, I can't remember his first name, but he's a Black guy. He's on MSNBC all the time. He's got like a gray afro and stuff. He doesn't like the Constitution, thinks we should rewrite it and stuff. So if you want to talk about the Constitution, I just think our side likes a little bit more than her side. But when it comes to the Second Amendment, not only has she supported mandatory buybacks after buyback after buyback after buyback, she said that many times. There's many examples of this. So let me just, again, I have a lot of the stuff in my 50 Reasons video with her experience with what she said about buybacks. I'll try to pull up one really quick. But beyond the buyback stuff, Kamala Harris actually supported taking away people's guns. And I don't mean just in a buyback. In 2005, in San Francisco, there was a ballot measure. It was Proposition H. And that was a gun confiscation, a handgun confiscation in San Francisco, where I think the only exceptions were like military and police or something. Everyone else had to turn their guns. I don't even think it was a buyback. I think it was returning your gun or else. So they weren't even like going to pay you. When they say mandatory buyback, sometimes people are like, oh, buyback. If it's mandatory, you have to turn it in. You have to turn it in. So the mandatory word is very important. But Kamala Harris supported everyone having to turn in their firearms. And it passed. Now the courts overturned it. Whole Second Amendment thing, But she literally supported getting rid of people's firearms. So when she says, I don't want to get rid of anyone's guns, that's a lie. It's a proven lie. It's not a hypothetical lie based on some wishes that she made or some campaign promises she didn't get a chance to fulfill. It's something she actually supported doing. And if not for the Second Amendment, people's rights would have been violated. Their God-given rights would have been violated. So Kamala Harris has some nerve. And again, there's multiple videos with Kamala Harris saying that she supports buybacks and other things. I got one in here prepped and ready to go.
Support buybacks, and I think that, look, we have 5 million assault weapons on the streets of America, and we have 5 million assault weapons on the streets of America. And assault weapons have been designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly. They are weapons of war, and there is no place for them on a civil society, on the streets of a civil society. And it's something I'm so passionate about and so looking forward to being president to address. We've got to deal with this.
How mandatory is your gun buyback program?
It's mandatory.
Second Amendment?
The Second Amendment, listen, we're going to have to do it the right way. There's no question about that. But we don't have any, we have to get these guns off the street. But I also, I have faith in the American people to know that, that we want to comply with our laws, and that I know that to be true.
So when they say, Kamala Harris kept saying in her different interviews, we're going to follow the law, we're going to follow the law, we're going to follow the law. So what happens when she tries to make a law, whether it's executive order, or she breaks the filibuster or whatever, and gets enough people on her side to try to do something with some kind of confiscation? And she's like, well, we're going to follow this law. This is a law. American people, you need to follow this law I just made up. She's like, I trust American people, just follow the law. All these the American people isn't just going to give up their firearms, especially while you going around. You're the she wasn't vice president of the United States at this point when she said this, but she's the vice president of the United States now. There's people who have guns who follow her around for protection all the time. Do Americans not have the right to self-preservation? And now she's like, oh, I own a Glock. I carry a Glock. I carry it and blah, blah, blah. I've fired a couple times. Yeah, I'm not trying to take your guns. So she's running to the middle and has been running to the middle because she knows her ideas are toxic. And now she's trying to paint Donald Trump as if he's some kind of crazy leftist when he was on the right and he moved to the middle. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. Now, I wish Donald Trump never tweeted that thing about terminating the Constitution. I don't like a lot of the behavior he had after the election in 2020, and how he handled some challenges and all kinds of different stuff. Even there's a lot of inside baseball stuff that I've gone over before, but I'm not going to go over right now. But lots of things I complain about, and lots of things I don't like. But to pretend that he's going to get rid of due process and your right to a lawyer and all kinds of different things, and that she's the one who doesn't want to take away your guns, when there's literal history of her trying to do that, is just insane. Which, by the way, Donald Trump keeps mentioning that she's been trying to take away guns, and PolitiFact keeps trying to claim that he's lying. And I've talked about this before, but this came up again. So they reposted it. And this is really insane to me. It's insane to me because they rate it as mostly false. Trump said Harris pledged to confiscate your guns. In 2019, Kamala Harris spoke in favor of mandatory programs to buy back assault weapons. As Vice President, Harris has focused on other gun measures. She has not called for confiscating guns broadly. So why? So if you don't want to give him the truth, he just literally talked about how she pledged to take guns. That is true. It is literally true. It is literally true. If you don't want to say it's all the way true, why isn't it mostly true? Why is it mostly false? It's obviously mostly true. He's literally just talking about what she talked about, what she pledged to do when she became president. It is so weak sauce for PolitiFact to say, oh, well, as vice president, Harris focused on other gun measures. What was she supposed to do? What was she supposed to do? What was she supposed to do as vice president to get rid of your guns? When she was on the debate stage against Joe Biden in that cycle of 2020, Joe Biden was like, you can't just use executive orders on guns. She laughed at the man and said, you say we can't, Joe, but I say, yes, we can. And laughed at him and laughed at the idea that she can't just, if the Congress isn't doing what she wants against firearms, that she could just come in, swoop in, and just decide to undo it. She can just, whoops, swipe of her pen, your rights are gone. That's what she's pledging that's what she pledged that she can do. She obviously couldn't do that as the vice president. And Joe Biden obviously didn't show interest, which he did do some like different executive orders on firearms actually as a president, but he didn't obviously try to do what she was pledging to do. So they had a difference of opinion there. So she can't do what she said she wanted to do if she were president, because she's not the president. So this is, as vice president, she didn't do the thing that she said she would do as president. Really, PolitiFact? Really? That's so interesting. She's not called for confiscating handguns broadly. She literally tried to confiscate people's guns in San Francisco. Proposition H. Literally tried to take people's handguns. Not just assault weapons, which what the heck is an assault weapon? Would they probably mean an AR, because they don't know what AR stands for and they think it stands for assault rifle. It doesn't. It doesn't. And you're saying, oh, these are weapons of war. These people don't like your AR-15 because it's a scary looking gun to them. It's a scary looking gun to them. Handguns kill more people, by the way. So when they say they want to confiscate stuff, they're talking about your AR-15s. That's what they're talking about. I wish more people would specifically, which models are you talking about? What specific ammunition are you talking about? What are you talking about? Why did you support Proposition H? Where are these specific questions to really nail her down on these things, on her record? On her record. How dare PolitiFact write this? How dare they write this? I've read this. I think it's the same article they wrote before. I don't think it's updated. Let me see. I'm just gonna look for Proposition H real quick. Nope, it's not in there. Not mentioned. Not mentioned. Mostly false. It's so stupid. Let me just read through it real quick. Former President Donald Trump told supporters in Georgia that Vice President Kamala Harris will take away their guns and leave them totally defenseless in your home. She supports mandatory gun confiscation, which is true. That's a mandatory buyback. That Proposition H was also, removing handguns and stuff. Trump said August 3rd at the campaign rally in Atlanta. He added sarcastically, would anybody mind if they came into your house and took away your gun? She's taking away all of your guns. In July, we saw a similar statement about Harris' gun record from the NRA, Gun Owners of America, and Dave McCormick, a Pennsylvania Republican running for U.S. Senate. The phrase gun confiscation is broad and could lead voters to think that Harris wants to confiscate all guns from law-abiding owners. That's not what she has said. You guys are such trash. Further, those rights are constitutionally protected by the Second Amendment. So what? She said what she said, bruh. In the U.S., gun buybacks are programs organized by local police departments that voluntarily allow people to turn over their guns in exchange for something such as a gift. What does it mean if it's mandatory? While running in the presidential primary in 2019, then California senator said she supported a mandatory gun buyback program for assault weapons. It did not apply to all guns, and she no longer holds that position. So you claim the Trump campaign did not respond to our request for comment. Harris has supported gun buybacks and other measures during an October 2019 gun control forum in Las Vegas. Harris joined two primary rivals supporting mandatory buybacks of assault weapons. We have a buyback program, and I support mandatory gun buyback program. We just watched that video. Let me skip a little bit ahead. Assault weapons are not mandatory guns sold in the United States. U.S. handguns are the most popular. In 1994, federal assault weapons ban, which expired in 2004, barred manufacture, transfer, and possession of about 118 firearm models and all magazines holding over 10 rounds. Harris supported renewing the ban throughout her career. 2019, NBC also reported that Harris then supported mandatory gun buyback. Harris told the interviewer there is no place for assault weapons on the streets. NBC News, Harry Smith asked Harris, so say you got a couple 100,000 off the street. I mean, isn't that just a drop in the bucket? Harris said, well, what we'll have to do is incentivize for people to turn them in and buy them back. But when we're talking about weapons of war, I mean, it literally is simple. 5 million assault weapons in the streets of America, period. The Trump campaign in an X post highlighted Harris's response to college students' question in a September 2019 episode of The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. One student asked Harris, do you believe in mandatory gun buybacks? And whether or not how does that idea go against fundamentally the Second Amendment? In this video clip, the Trump campaign introduced a couple of sentences of Harris remarks. We put the parts that Trump campaign included in the video in bold. Harris said, I do believe that we need to do buybacks. Then she described assault weapons as weapons of war. She vowed and reflected the ban on the importation of assault weapons. She said that the U.S. will have to deal with the assault weapons that are already in the country. And so buyback program is a good idea. Now we need to do it the right way. Blah, 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 blah. They add a lot of things in there about her buybacks. And then they said our ruling Trump, wow. So this is why they ruled it mostly false. Trump used the present tense when he said that Harris supports mandatory gun confiscation. The Harris campaign told the New York Times that she supports banning assault weapons, but not requirement to sell them to federal government. We could find no examples that she currently supports mandatory gun confiscation. The claim contains an element of truth about her past position on assault weapons, but it leaves a misleading impression about the platform in 2024. We rate the statement mostly false. The Harris campaign is literally trying to push an entire platform that isn't actually Trump, the Project 2025, and PolitiFact is like, she said it before, and we don't want people to get confused about the 2024 campaign. Okay, she doesn't want to lose; she wants to win. But when she was running for president before, she said all this crazy stuff. And we should not just forget that all this stuff was on the table. When Brett Baer asked her about the things that she supported in the past, she said that was 5 years ago. Yes, 5 years ago when you were running for president. And now you have your shot again. And you don't want to blow it because you only have like a couple months. You don't have an entire 2 years for people to really slice and dice your whole position. And you didn't have to go through a primary for you saying a bunch of crazy stuff because you're trying to impress your leftist friends. So now you're trying to lie through your teeth for as long as you can. And then you're going to get in there and do a bunch of crazy stuff. She needs to be asked specifically, do you consider an AR-15 to be an assault weapon? Do you want to see that banned? That's a very specific question she needs to be asked. Should have a pretty simple answer. And by the way, Democrats would like to get rid of those. A lot of them would like to get rid of those. But the Heller decision, that's a common use gun. You can't just get rid of it. But a lot of Democrats have spoken out against the Heller decision. I don't know specifically if she has, but she probably has. I don't know. I'd have to look for it. But we know there's nothing in here about Proposition H. She supported Proposition H. Those were handguns. Handguns. So back to Kamala Harris and Shannon Sharpe, man. It's men. I was talking to my sister the other night, and she works with the Trump campaign. She's a head of like urban engagement, and she worked at the RNC before, and that was also her job, like women engagement and urban engagement. So she's traveled all around the country, talked to men and women. But when she talks to men about what they want, what's important to them, and she had a conversation relaying some of these things to a Democrat relative. She's like, when I have conversations with men all over the country. These are the things that they care about. They care about the economy. That is number one. They care about the economy, being able to put food on the table. That is number one. Okay. So people are going to vote for who they think can put money in their pocket. That's who men are going to prioritize in the voting booth. You can say, oh, well, Harris is going to make sure that if you can't afford your kid, you can kill it. That is not the highest aspiration for a man, nor should it be. That should not be the pitch. If that is your great pitch, you're obviously not good for society. If that's the most optimistic that we can be with your campaign is you can kill your kids. That is not a good way forward. When you got to climb to the top of the mountain over a dead body of babies. Sorry. Not attractive to dudes. Maybe a couple scumbag dudes, but dudes in general, there's nothing masculine about sacrificing your kids. Sorry. Masculinity, true masculinity, they're protecting their families. They're serving their families, doing all that they can for their families. The economy is what's important to them. Number one, the economy. Number two, they care about the border because it also does feed into the economy, but they care about safety as well. It's a very important issue for voters in general. So men aren't so crazy. They're not such strange creatures. Economy, border. Another thing, though, that they really do care about, they don't like all this transgender confusion. If you're a father and you have a daughter, let's say she likes sports, do you want your daughter or your sister running track next to a biological boy and him just killing it, taking away a spot or a medal that should have belonged to your daughter, to your sister? Are you okay with that? No, you wouldn't be okay with that. And would you be okay with her hitting the showers and that dude is right next to her? No, you wouldn't be okay with that. That's an important issue. And we talked about this, I think about 2 weeks ago. We showed that ad that the Trump campaign put out that had Charlemagne from the Breakfast Club on it, which Charlemagne said he didn't give them permission and he sent a cease and desist order or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the original ad didn't even have him on it, but he saw an ad during football and he talked about it on a show. And then since he talked about it on a show, the Trump campaign clipped that and they added it to their ad because he's like, oh man, that was an effective ad because, oh yeah, I don't want my taxpayer dollars paying for transgender surgeries, in prison and stuff. Yeah, people don't want to pay for that. But the ad, the one, I don't even know what the original one looked like, but the one with Charlemagne, it was clearly geared toward men. And I think it was clearly geared toward black men. I think it was clearly geared toward black men with the different imagery that they used in the ad. I'm like, this was smart. And it is effective because men want to provide for their families and men want to protect their families. So they don't like all this confusion. They don't. Those are things that are important. But unfortunately for Kamala Harris, people don't feel like the economy is really great right now. And since she is the vice president, they kind of look at her sideways when she says, I'm going to fix it on day one. And they're like, okay, well, Christmas is coming up. Thanksgiving is coming up. And I can't afford for your day one. So if you're not going to fix things now, why should I trust that you're going to fix it on day one? And maybe Trump was a little crazy or seemed like he was kind of crazy. But you know what? I have more money in my pocket, so I'm gonna go with that dude. I don't trust you too much. So, unfortunately for her, they trust Trump on the economy. And some of the stuff that she's saying about the economy is stupid. So stupid. So ridiculously stupid. When it comes to the border, she's the one who said the border crisis is a fiction. that the wall was a medieval vanity project, that she wouldn't fund it under any circumstances, even if there was like some kind of compromise or whatever on some stuff that she wanted. She's the one who was bragging like, oh, one of the first things we did was try to push amnesty. That doesn't sound great. If you push amnesty, all you're doing is rewarding bad behavior and incentivizing more people in the future to commit more bad behavior. So that's not good. They let in a flood of people. She said that she wanted to stop deportation, and that's what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris immediately did. They stopped remaining in Mexico. They fought to get rid of the there was a restriction, like a COVID restriction that stopped the flow of people coming in. Biden administration tried to stop all that. So really bad on the border. They don't trust her there. And of course, she's into the gender stuff. And it's obviously had an impact because she had an interview with NBC and she tried to kind of dodge like Neo when they asked her about her positions. And she said, well, we're going to follow the law. And they're like, that doesn't sound like the I'm with you, I'm here with you kind of rhetoric that you guys had in the past. Because she's aware of the fact that that issue is hurting her, and good. It should. So she's tried other appeals to reach out to men. She tried making that, black men thing on her website, talking about all these special things she's going to do for black men. Like, oh, well, we're going to do some forgivable loans. Okay. But you can't do forgivable loans for just black men. And, oh, what do you know? It's open to everyone. It's open to everyone. It's like, oh, well, we'll make sure we legalize marijuana and help you guys get jobs. Okay, well, that's also not going to be specific for black men, but man, that sounds kind of racist. All the things you could offer and try to highlight, and you're out here talking about, oh yeah, we'll get you guys selling drugs real fast. Oh yeah, I know that's specifically the thing that's going to appeal to black men. Okay, Kamala Harris. But did you notice though, and I'm sure you guys did because we already talked about this, that when they tried to do a pitch to Latino men, which by the way, it's Asian men, Latino men, all this stuff applies. All this stuff applies to everyone. It's not specific, but they didn't say, oh, we're going to make sure that the Hispanics, we're going to help them sell drugs. Most of the things were like economic or whatever. It wasn't racist in the way that the black one was racist. And I'm like, how can they miss the mark on this so much? How can they miss the mark on this so much? So she's got a problem, and I hope the problem continues. I know that she's going around and folks are going around saying, oh, Donald Trump is a Nazi. They had a Nazi rally because it was in Madison Square Garden, which, by the way, Bill Clinton had an event at Madison Square Garden. So did Kennedy. Lots of people did. Lots of people went there. Just because you have an event at Madison Square Garden doesn't make you Hitler. And they're aware of that because they don't call everyone else Hitler for having an event there. They just want to specifically, call Trump that. But my sister was there the other night. And so she said there were so many Jewish people, like Orthodox Jewish people in the rallies, waving their flags and just being proud and bold, and people in thousands of people outside, and it was packed. People aren't just saying it was packed, it was packed, and people were there for hours listening to speaker after speaker. They had a crazy guest list. They had Vivek was there. They had Tucker Carlson was there. Dr. Phil was there. Elon was there. Melania introduced Trump. I think Don Jr. maybe spoke too. There was actually, I don't know, because I don't remember any clips of his coming up, but there were so many people there speaking forever. And then because I called her after church. It was after, maybe I called her around maybe 3-4 o'clock, and she's like, oh, I'm at the rally right now. I'm by the stage. I'll talk to you later. And it still lasted hours like after that. It was a long day, which Trump rallies are long anyway, but I mean, it was essentially like a kind of a reboot of the RNC. And so they had a great night. The only like snafu I would say is there was a comedian who made some kind of joke about Puerto Rico, and folks were like, oh my gosh, that's so terrible. And this guy, I guess he's He's a comedian that likes to roast and is infamous for roasting. And I did watch one of his roast videos, and he can get pretty brutal. But out of all the things that Donald Trump has said, if the thing that's going to deter you from voting for him is something that someone else actually said and not even Trump himself, that seems really weird to me. So I don't know how much that actually moves the needle when if that's the thing that pushes you to vote for Kamala Harris, when Kamala Harris has all this evil stuff in her back pocket. That's just very odd to me. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say if that's the thing that finally pushes you over. You know, that's odd to me. But people are trying to say that Trump is crazy, that he's deranged and unwell and on a mental decline. All the things that were true about Joe Biden, people were saying about Joe Biden, but they were trying to say wasn't true. They're trying to apply it to Trump, which I'm not surprised, by the way, but totally completely dishonest. And then they try to tell men all this stuff, and then they go watch him on Flagrant, and they're like, no, this guy's sharp and he's really funny and charismatic. And they watch him on Joe Rogan for 3 hours. That dropped on Friday night. After church, I got some Wingstop. And me and my sister, we went home, and I was like, oh, they dropped the Joe Rogan thing. And so I was just going to watch it a little bit. And then, because I'm like, I don't need to watch the whole thing. And then they talked about some interesting things, though. Like, then an hour and a half went by, and she's like, okay, I'm going to go upstairs or whatever. And I just kind of listened to it until I fell asleep, and then finished it the next day. I might have stayed up for the whole thing, because when I played it back, I was like, oh, I think I already heard this. But 3 hours there, just chit-chatting with Joe. And I thought their conversation on they were talking about environmental impact reports and stuff, because I heard Elon talk about some of the silly environmental studies that they make you do and pay for before you can do any kind of project. And Donald Trump had experience with that, doing different buildings and stuff. And so when they say that cutting regulation is really important for businesses to be able to do stuff, they mean it. So I thought there was some interesting, insight to different topics that they talked about. And people watch that and watch him, and they're like, what are they talking about? This man is not having some kind of mental breakdown, some kind of decline. And you can see comments on Joe Rogan in his podcast where people are like, oh my gosh, these people have lied to me about this man. Or Theo Vaughn did a podcast. He already did one with Trump, but he did one with JD Vance. And people in the comments are like, I thought this guy was weird. They said this guy was weird. This guy is so down to earth. His story is so inspiring. He's probably one of the most normal politicians I've ever seen. So these podcasts are doing so much work and bypassing traditional media, giving people a chance to connect with voters in a way they haven't before. So, I mean, that's a good thing. It's also annoying when there's, people who don't maybe take their job as seriously as they ought to, because Kamala Harris lying the way that she did about the guns thing should not have stood at all. And I know he probably didn't want to berate her. Well, you don't need to berate someone to fact check them, but she has such a strong history of repeatedly trying to take people's guns or promising to take people's guns. So to go on there and pretend like Trump is the one with the who wants to terminate the Constitution, and that he's going to be an issue for the First Amendment, Second Amendment, etc. Which, by the way, if we want to talk about Kamala Harris and her issues with the First Amendment, she has talked about how she wanted to go after. She was glad that Donald Trump got kicked off of social media. And she talked about how she wanted social media companies to have government oversight, because of like misinformation and hate speech. And Tim Walz was like, oh, well, that's not hate speech, misinformation. That stuff's not protected by the First Amendment, when it is. It's absolutely protected by the First Amendment. And that's what she picked for her running mate. So they have very strange ideas about the First Amendment, what you can and cannot say, and how much government pressure should be on these social media companies. And they did put a lot of pressure on them, like remember the Hunter Biden laptop and COVID, and how they the way that they would strong arm people with the misinformation stuff. Like go back to COVID. There were so many people had to be so careful online with what they talked about, and they said, oh, you cannot say anything that conflicts with CDC information. And if you did say something on YouTube or whatever that conflicted with the CDC and whatever, or maybe seem close to it, they would give you a strike. They would give you a strike. And during that time, I happened to get 2 strikes. And one time, I was reporting on a story about Canada and how they were trying to make sure that the kids in some kind of hospital were vaccinated, had the jab, and they were trying to make somebody leave because they wouldn't get it or whatever. And I think my title was a little maybe too provocative for them, and maybe that's what got it flagged. But they didn't accept my appeal, and I got a strike for that. And at one point, I had 2 strikes. And when you get like 2 hard strikes, you can't post anything for 2 weeks, and then you can't and then it's like on your account for a while. So it was really hard during that time. And even sometimes I'm like, I didn't even say anything. I'm like, can you guys please like tell me what you think I said that's against the CDC guidelines? And they don't get back with you and get all specific and stuff. So and so many things that they hit or were wrong about when it came to COVID. So it just wasn't good for social media. And I question what's going to be the next move as far as, misinformation about health and other stuff. Because if you go on YouTube and you talk about abortion or something, there's gonna be a bar or something at the bottom that links people to information about abortion, and it'll describe an abortion as a termination of a pregnancy. And that's why you have so many women going around saying, well, I'm pro-choice all 9 months because a C-section isn't an abortion now. It's crazy stuff like that. But if they start trying to say that some of the stuff that I'm saying is misinformation, I could be saying factual things about this subject of abortion, and then maybe get strikes on my channel. We could be headed that way, especially with Kamala Harris at the helm and her being so pro-choice. Well, she's not even pro-choice; she's pro-abortion. So we should be very concerned about the kind of government oversight that they're imposing or suggesting over these social media companies, and how buddy they are with the left-wing ideology. It's just really insane. So beyond that, Kamala Harris was upset about the 303 creative case and that outcome. There was a graphic designer who was from Colorado, and she did not want to design any like websites or anything for like a same-sex wedding. And so it was ruled that she didn't have to. You can't compel somebody to do that. And so people are like, oh, this is so evil against the LGBT community. It's like, well, no, this same ruling applies to gay people. If you don't want to make something that goes against your beliefs or whatever, you don't have to do that either. So if you don't want to make a cake for like a conversion therapy camp, good on you. You don't have to do that. But Kamala Harris, she was upset about that. So these people don't care about your religious liberty. That's out the window to them. They don't care about your freedom of association. There's things in the First Amendment that are in danger by these kinds of people like Kamala Harris. And then there was the doozy like last week when she was asked, would you be willing to compromise on abortion so you can get like some kind of Roe v. Wade codified? And the example that she was asked about by NBC was, would you be willing to allow religious exemptions? Now that seems kind of a weird question, because you're probably like, why would you even need religious exemption? If you wanted abortion, they say don't like abortion, don't have one. That's what they say. Now it's really stupid, because it's like saying you don't like rape, don't rape. If you don't like murder, don't do murder. So that what okay, like I won't do it, but that doesn't mean we should let everyone else do those bad things, right? So it's a really bad talking point, but that's what they say. They say mind your business between a woman and a doctor, whatever. So you might be asking like, what does that even have to do with Christians? That's such a weird question. And Kamala Harris's response was, I don't think we should make compromises on a fundamental right. Now it's funny that a woman having an abortion is a fundamental right to Kamala Harris, but not religious liberty, not people following their religious, sincerely held, beliefs and stuff. So that's odd. And people might be scratching their heads like, well, how's she going to force Christians to participate? And the easy answer to that is that they will try to use force tax dollars, or more specifically, they will try to make Christian business owners or even Christian organizations fund abortion through their insurance plans, which is something that California and the abortion lobby has been trying to do for years. So this isn't hypothetical. Is what they've been trying to do. So that's probably what the push and the move will be. How the courts are right now, you could fight that and you could win that. But Kamala Harris wants to, do court reform, get rid of the justices that she doesn't like, and she would like to, replace them with people who are gonna make crazy rulings. And if she can't do that, she would, may want to get rid of the filibuster so she can pack the courts. And even pack the courts, people have been trying to change the definition of what that means. They're like, well, Trump packed the court. No, Trump filled appointments. Packing the court is you expanding the amount of justices there are so you can change the ideology of the court. That's what actually packing the court means. And the Democrats have pitched that and have been, okay with that idea for a while. So another way that that could affect Christians could, if she's crazy enough, is to force Christian hospitals and other places to make sure that abortion is available there, and or different maybe Christian pharmacies or whatever you might want to carry. I don't know. They could force people to make sure that access is available, and I guess I wouldn't put it past her, but again, she's not good for our rights in the least bit. This is a woman who was giving a speech on abortion, and she would only mention liberty and the pursuit of happiness because she knew that her mentioning life wasn't going to be good. Wasn't going to be good. So there's a Harris supporter in my comments. Why would I support Harris Walls? You're not going back. Okay. We'll see. I mean, she could win. But some of y'all are crazy. Y'all will get, I guess, one way or another, America will get what it deserves, I guess. I don't think I'm going to lose sleep over it. It's just gonna, I really don't like Kamala Harris, though. I genuinely do not like her personally. I don't like her policies, and I don't like her personally. I don't like Michelle Obama personally either, or Obama. So since we're on the topic, let's move to Michelle really quick. Or let me hold on before I get to Michelle. Let me go over Jake Tapper really quick. Because I don't think we'll talk about that super long. So Jake Tapper had a pretty contentious debate with JD Vance on things that Trump said and so on. So one thing, and I don't have this particular clip queued up, but JD Vance had said something about different former Trump associates not being on board with Trump because they support war, and Jake Tapper just thought that was so silly. And he's like, oh, you're saying all these people, they just didn't want to support Trump. And he mentioned Pence and other folks. Now, I think Pence has other reasons for not wanting to support Donald Trump that seem kind of obvious to me. But yeah, there's some people who don't believe in supporting Trump because they don't like his maybe perhaps foreign policy objective. And specifically Mark Kelly, General Kelly and stuff, when he it's not Mark, but when he left, he actually was going around talking about General Kelly is a senator. Trying to think of his first name. John Kelly. Sorry, John Kelly. John Kelly was going around talking about how he didn't like Trump's position, like pulling out and stuff with Syria. So they did have issues about what Trump wanted to do as far as war and stations and other stuff like that. So it's not too far-fetched what JD was saying, but the clip that's really going viral is their exchange when they were start talking about Russia, the Russia investigation, and Tapper wanted to dodge responsibility for CNN's role that he played in that. So there's already like fabulous compilation videos. So I'm going to play you at least 2.
You guys talked about the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it. The FBI was investigating it. So we recovered them.
And so you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it again and again. A viewer of your network would have believed that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin conspired in 2016.
No.
That was totally and preposterously false.
No.
Well, that's
what you just said is
why.
false. President Trump has gone to, quote, extraordinary lengths to keep specifics about his meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin secret, even keeping them from top members of his own administration. Take a listen to how President Trump responded Saturday night when asked directly if he has ever worked for Russia.
I think it's the most insulting thing I've ever been asked. I think it's the most insulting article I've ever had written.
The president did not directly answer the question. It's a stunning turn of events. Do you think the president of the United States ever worked on behalf of the Russians against American interests?
That's freaking embarrassing. If you don't follow Maze, by the way, because they make clips like this all the time. Let me go back to the. Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's what I tweeted. I said, follow this account. Follow this account. And they follow me too, but video editor, content creator, like well deserved, man. So all those follows and stuff. That's incredible. That is incredible. But I remember CNN playing crazy thing after crazy thing after crazy thing, and maybe they're not quite as bad as like MSNBC, but they were bad. And Jake Tapper was also bad about this stuff too. Jake Tapper, something crazy he did this past week, and they were talking about the accusations about Trump not paying for the funeral for a female soldier who was murdered. And he had their family there in the Oval Office, and he said, we're gonna do what we can, and if you need anything, we'll pay for it. And so the Atlantic wrote a story saying that when it was time to foot the bill, Trump was like, it doesn't cost that much to bury a Mexican. And the family came out, by the way, and was like at a press conference or whatever with Trump. And so they were like, this is not true. The lawyers and the family, they were like, this is not true. Trump treated us with such respect. Mark Meadows said that it didn't happen. So everyone involved, there is a source, like an unnamed source or whatever, but everyone else involved with the story said it didn't happen. It's a fiction. And the Atlantic also wrote the fictitious story of the losers and suckers hoax, which you guys can go to blacktnews.com and see. I debunked that story some time ago, but I re-debunked it because I'm like, okay, and people introducing like General John Kelly in the story, it just makes it make less sense, the Atlantic piece. But Jake Tapper, they were talking about the story, and he's like, oh yeah, it is damning because it says a lot that Trump didn't actually pay for the funeral. In the original video, when Trump was talking to the family saying, I will help you, and they were like, oh, the military will take care of it. So Trump did not have to fit the bill. He was willing to fit the bill if he had to, allegedly anyway, but he didn't have to, and it was paid for. But so them say originally they said flat out that the military was going to cover the costs. So being like, oh well, Trump didn't actually pay for it, so that's actually really damning. You're inserting your editorial notes into the minds of the viewer because you have your bias and you want them to think, oh my gosh, yeah, it's so terrible that he didn't actually pay for it, just like he did here with Russia. Like, what do you think, America? Do you think he's ever been an agent of Russia? So these people are embarrassing. I'm going to show you another compilation. This one's a couple minutes long. It's almost 4 minutes long, but it's okay. We'll go a little over today.
The report is now here. It has dropped, and it might not have produced everything of what some Republicans hoped for. It is, regardless, devastating to the FBI, and to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump. Why this is interesting and significant is that President Trump and others are trying to say that the FBI is corrupt and they had this Steele dossier which they say has been discredited, which is not entirely true, and that it's all because of the Steele dossier, and this whole investigation is based on nonsense. In this op-ed from the founders of Fusion GPS, that the dossier was taken so seriously because it corroborated reports the Bureau had received from other sources, including one inside the Trump camp.
There is obviously a big move to undermine the Mueller investigation, and we see it all the time with all
the witch hunt.
The witch hunt.
The hoax.
Big hoax. At the end of the day, we were attacked. The American people were attacked. And that can't happen again. And the idea that there are members of Congress or whoever trying to stop an investigation from going forward into what happened so we can make sure it doesn't happen again, it is
weird. It's weird.
It's not just weird, it's unpatriotic.
I'm going to continue on, but I just want to just put into perspective how much damage the Russia hoax had. And people are like, oh, we'll just investigate. And why, if you're innocent, then why would you care about being investigated? Because they're clearly the amount of investigations that Trump had while he was president and people not really coming up with stuff, that made me think like, I had a better opinion of him after that stuff because I'm like, they still ain't found nothing yet. I'm like, because they've been trying to take him down and they still didn't take him down. They still couldn't get him on anything. That's pretty incredible. So Trump, knowing how these stories were damaging him in the press, knowing that they were doing anything at any cost to come and take him down, why would he be okay with like them just trying to find everything with a fine-tooth comb? Which, by the way, guys, one of the right-hand men of Mueller for the Mueller investigation was flipping out because the Washington Post did not endorse Kamala Harris. So I have his tweet saved among other tweets. Just so you know how these people are who were looking into Donald Trump trying to destroy his presidency. But so many people were like, oh, he's a Russian puppet. He's this, he's that, blah, 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 trying to discredit him. He's an illegitimate president. How much damage does that do to a country, to the psyche of the American people, to feel that their president wasn't really elected by the people, that they were installed by a foreign adversary? And Jake Tapper's like, well, people want to stop this, and it's unpatriotic. Oh. Reporting every little thing, and they pat themselves on the back, and they gave him Pulitzer prizes, and call themselves heroes, that they are protecting democracy. When their goal is just to take down Trump. Their goal is just to take down Trump.
And we're back with breaking news in our politics lead. CNN is now learning that Christopher Steele, the British spy who authored the Trump-Russia dossier, alerted the FBI in July 2016 because he was so concerned then candidate Donald Trump may have been vulnerable to blackmail. What's your reaction to that?
So we've got a couple of examples now of genuine friends of the United States, members of the Five Eyes Alliance, an Australian ambassador and a retiree from Britain's MI6,
dossier was
having
garbage,
concerns about the well-being of American democracy. And they followed their conscience and made their concerns known to the appropriate organs of the United States government. That's about as far from a political motivation as you can get.
Okay. Devin Nunes, in his public comments and some of the other comments we've seen, seems to be
originated by Hillary Clinton.
That the officials in the FBI who were seeking a FISA warrant against Carter Page relied too much on a political document, the Christopher Steele dossier.
No, I don't know that the dossier played in this very much at all. However, some of what was in the dossier was corroborated in our intelligence community assessment, which was derived from other sources of information in which we had high confidence.
Donald Trump is still calling this witch hunt. Okay,
yeah. They've caught a few witches, by the way.
They have.
There have been a few witch indictments.
Giuliani, great lawyer, he has said that the whole investigation at this point has become absurd. It's absurd. Is it absurd?
No. We broke the story of the existence of the dossier, that President Trump had been briefed, and we did not mention any of the contents of the dossier. CNN. But But there's the FBI director talking about prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow. It was almost exactly 2 years ago that CNN reported that.
By the way, they had the news stations had the dossier stuff earlier, and they knew it was probably garbage, and then Comey got to brief Trump on it, and since Comey briefed him on it, that's when they decided, oh, we're gonna just start talking about PP tapes and all kinds of stuff, which just was absurd anyway. And it was also funny to hear Trump talk about it. He's like, I'm a germaphobe. Like, why would I want them peeing on me? like it doesn't make any sense, you know? Why do we meet in some kind of crappy hotel and have prostitutes pee on me? But just crazy stuff, and we're still not done.
President Trump had been briefed on the intelligence community's assessment of Russian interference in the 2016 election, including the existence of the Steele dossier,
which was
despite
garbage.
The president's fierce denial, CNN's chief national security correspondent Jim Sciutto reports that the special counsel's team has already proven some of the claims in that dossier are true. Joining me now is the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff of California. Congressman Adam Schiff of California. Congressman Adam Schiff. 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 Have Democrats found any evidence of collusion?
Yes, we have.
You want the truth about Russia and possible collusion. I just would like the truth and facts to be respected again in this country.
Oh boy, is that so, Jake Tapper? Jake Tapper, by the way, is currently in a lawsuit against CNN because when there was I reported on it, I read the article at the time, so forgive me while I just kind of go back over the details I can remember, but we did cover it, and when there's more details, we'll update it. But there was a company that was flying people out of Afghanistan, and they did take payments. You know, it's expensive, it's dangerous or whatever to do that. So people would get money together and sponsor money, whatever, to get their family member and other folks out. And so CNN decided that they wanted to nail this guy. And I think nail was like what they actually said. And so they just acted like, branded it as a scam and branded him as a scam artist. And Jake Tapper reported about it on his show. I think they ended up taking down a report that was on CNN, like online or whatever, because but there was text messages that were produced, I think, during discovery and other stuff that they're like, oh yeah, there's malicious intent here. They're going to go forward. So they are being sued for a lot of money right now. So that's what CNN is involved in right now. They do not always tell the truth. They are not always after the truth. And sometimes they do have an agenda to ruin people's lives, and that should not surprise anyone. People were talking about the sort of anger that Jake Tapper seemed to have. Like people were upset about Brett Baer, like over talking Kamala Harris at times, really pressing her during their interview. But Jake Tapper with JD Vance was just not professional. So, yeah, it's wild. There's so many receipts about Jake Tapper and CNN and the sort of lies that they tell. There was a clip about someone reminded that Jake Tapper pushed. Just think about all the crazy stories they pushed about Kavanaugh, about him like claiming to be part of a gang rape train and stuff. And they just aired like all kind of crazy accusations. All these people had Michael Avenatti on again and again and again and again and again. And they didn't care. I remember back in 2016 when all these women were accusing Trump of different stuff. And I believe it was CNN, but it was one of the news networks. They're like, oh, we haven't verified this stuff, but we're going to go ahead and go live with this press conference with this woman who's making these accusations against Donald Trump for sexual assault. I'm like, well, that doesn't seem great that you haven't verified it. You're only the news. So they do take sides. I think it's very clear with the freak out about the Washington Post not endorsing Trump. I mean, not endorsing Kamala, and people saying I'm canceling my subscriptions and just all the crying or whatever. People have resigned from the Washington Post over that. You know, they do obviously take sides. They do obviously take sides. And It's a shame that they obviously take sides while pretending that they are just after the truth, just after the honest truth. CNN was like pushing the bleach hoax, you know, that Trump injected bleach. You told people to inject bleach. And Scott, can't think of his last name, but Scott, he's like the lone Republican who's always on the panels. And he said that's been debunked. And one of the anchors was like, "Oh, what do you mean it's been debunked?" Like it's been debunked. Even your fact checker debunked it when someone mentioned it during a Joe Biden, or I think mentioned it during the presidential debate. Daniel Dale mentioned that it was debunked. But you guys can go to my video debunking top 10 Trump hoaxes. That's one of the ones that I cover to see more information about that. But these folks are insane. They're really insane. Last thing I want to talk about is one of the main things I wanted to talk about, but I had to talk about that Shannon Sharpe thing first, and we talked about that a long time. Is this speech by Michelle Obama, who I'm not fond of in the least bit. And she really went on and on and on about her message to men. And I'm gonna play not her whole speech. This is a snippet that Kamala HQ decided to tweet out. And just they're really running with this propaganda surrounding abortion. And I'm not saying that men aren't willing to vote for Kamala over that issue for women, but again, they care about the economy, they care about the border, they care about their women, their daughters and their sisters having to share locker rooms and all kind of private spaces with trans men or trans women and trans women trying to dominate their sports and stuff. They care about those issues, but economy's first, border, and abortion doesn't rank too high, but they are trying to scare men and incentivize bad behavior with men to convince them to like, oh, if abortion's gone, how can I coerce my girlfriend into getting rid of that baby? You know? So here we go.
So to the men who love us, let me just try to paint a picture of what it will feel like if America, the wealthiest nation on earth, keeps revoking basic care from its women, and how it will affect every single woman in your life.
I'm going to just mention right now, for context, that every single law, every single pro-life law in the country allows for abortions for life of the mother. Now, it's unlikely that you'll come into a scenario that that will be necessary, because when it's a small statistic where people even have abortions for health or life of the mother anyway, but health can be a different kind of ranges, and that could also be including like the baby isn't healthy. And by baby isn't healthy, that doesn't mean that the baby is going to die shortly after they're born. That could just mean that they're going to euthanize them, and that doesn't even mean that they have like some kind of crippling condition where they'll be like, I don't know, deformed for life or something. That could just mean that they have Down syndrome, you know? So but anyway, if you have some kind of medical emergency, you know, those are usually going to occur like really later in your pregnancy, where it's probably going to be it's going to be faster to just induce the labor to preserve your life, because once you get pretty far into the second trimester or indefinitely the third trimester, you're going to have multi-day procedures for that. So if you're having a real medical emergency, you're going to want to induce the labor, and it might be the case where the baby cannot survive because it's too early. Then they'll do everything that they can to preserve that life, but maybe they cannot survive. That's not an abortion. That's not an abortion. If you have an abortion, there's some intent there to make sure that baby comes out dead, man. And most of the abortions that occur, and they want abortion available to basically be backup birth control. That's what they want it for. But they're trying to scare people with all this medical stuff to justify everything else. They're not going out there saying, hey, the woman who decides that she wants to go have a one night stand and has an oopsie baby, that she should be able to have an abortion. But she does mention it in a birth control kind of way as she tries to entice men to support abortion. But anyway, every state in the country still has the life of the mother exception. They have exceptions for, bodily harm, like if it's going to permanently alter the mother's body. I believe every state basically has that too. And even in Texas, where they try to tell like, oh, Kate Cox's story, Kate Cox's doctor said that she was not in imminent danger. They did not say that she needed an abortion based on reasonable medical judgment. They basically said that she wanted to have an abortion because she wanted to save her C-section for a healthy baby. So that's the reality of this stuff. If it was so prevalent, like they say, that they wouldn't need to lie about Amber Thurman, who died after complications from an abortion that she had. She aborted her twins and got sepsis. That's how she passed away. The doctor should have acted quicker, but it wasn't like any kind of pro-life law that prevented her from being, helped. But they're trying to scare people, and I can only imagine how bad it is in Florida. What these ads are, the ads are annoying. And I'm in Michigan, it's not on the ballot right now, but they're still trying to make it about abortion because we got a Supreme Court vote coming up. People, so they're trying to say, oh, our rights are still in danger. So even watching Frasier online, I got ads. So I can't even imagine how I can't imagine how it was in Florida, because I lived through the midterms in Michigan and the ads were insane. But they're even more insane now. They're doing so much fear mongering. When the reality of the situation is, and I can't take credit for this line, most women have abortions not to preserve their life, but to preserve their lifestyle. And so with all that true information that I just said, here's what Michelle Obama decided to say.
Your girlfriend could be the one in legal jeopardy if she needs a pill from out of state or overseas, or if she has to travel across state lines because the local clinic closed up. Your wife or mother could be the ones at higher risk of dying from undiagnosed cervical cancer because they have no access to regular gynecological care. Your daughter could be the one too terrified to call the doctor if she's bleeding during an unexpected pregnancy. Your niece could be the one miscarrying in her bathtub after the hospital turned her away. And this will not just affect women, it will affect you and your sons. The devastating consequences of teen pregnancy won't just be borne by young girls, but also by the young men who are the fathers. They too will have their dreams of going to college. Their entire future is totally upended by an unwanted pregnancy. If you and your partner are expecting a child, you will be right by her side at the checkups, terrified if her blood pressure is too high, or if there's an issue with the placenta, or if the ultrasound shows that the embryo was implanted in the wrong place, and the doctors aren't sure that they can intervene to keep the woman you love safe.
First of all, she's talking about an ectopic pregnancy now. If the baby implanted in the wrong place. And so FYI, an ectopic pregnancy is not an abortion. And you know who used to admit that? Planned Parenthood used to be right on their site. The last time I checked, it wasn't on their site, but they did remove it, probably because there was so much controversy around this issue, and so many activists wanted to use it for their own personal gain. And I had reshared the screenshot earlier. I guess I'm not going to share my Facebook screen, but they used to say treating an ectopic pregnancy isn't the same thing as getting an abortion. Abortion is a medical procedure that, when done safely, ends a pregnancy that's in your uterus. Ectopic pregnancies are unsafely outside of your uterus, usually in the fallopian tubes, and are removed with a medicine called methotrexate. I think I said that right, or through laparoscopic surgical procedure. The medical procedures for abortions are not the same as the medical procedures for ectopic pregnancies, so they don't do the same thing. You cannot save the baby in that situation. I have relatives who had ectopic pregnancies, and they were able to save her tubes and stuff. But I said, yeah, the Democrats are using ectopic pregnancies to scare women. And she was so upset. She's like, they're sick. They are sick. They are sick. You can't help if you have an ectopic pregnancy. You can't help that. Abortion is you trying to kill your baby. She's like, you can't help if you have an ectopic pregnancy. They're sick, but they're trying to put all this stuff together. Even they're trying to put miscarriages and even C-sections, all this stuff together, saying, oh, they just won't let women have health care. No, we just don't want you to purposely terminate the life of your child. Like Ben Shapiro was on Surrounded Jubilee show, and he was talking to a woman, and she said that she's for abortion all 9 months, and she just defined abortion as the pregnancy, like terminating a pregnancy, like ending a pregnancy. And Ben is just like, that. What the heck? Like, that's not the definition. There are definitions that are written like that because they want the confusion, they want the conflation. And so Ben like went back and forth with her a little bit, and then he's like, okay, well, let's just take that out of there, the equation, and just say, you know, how do you feel about the termination of the life? And then she finally shifted and was like, well, I value sentience. And they didn't get a chance to go that far down, you know, that conversation, because she got voted out. But yeah, that's the route they go. They want to conflate so much stuff together because what they actually support is indefensible. So what Michelle Obama is doing here, you know, bringing up the ectopic pregnancy, is sick. But let's go back to the, if you're a man, you might have to suffer as a father with a baby. You might have to have your dreams of college put on hold because you got to take care of a baby. You might have to go with your girlfriend to checkups and appointments because there's a baby. This is sick. She's a mother. She's had children. I know some of you guys are probably going through allegedly. She's had children, guys. She's had children. She's a mother. And she's trying to scare men out of fatherhood and saying, hey, you know what? If you're not ready, it's okay if you kill them kids. Yeet is the fetus. Just screw them kids. Now, I would think that most good people in the world would be a little horrified by that part of the speech. I would think if you have a soul that you would be horrified by that part of the speech, but you shouldn't be surprised. You shouldn't be surprised. I'm so sorry I don't have this clip pulled up. You'll just have to believe me or look at it sometime later. But Obama, when he was running for president, the subject came up and he said, I don't want my daughters punished with a baby. That's what he referred to it as, a punishment. He doesn't want his girls punished with a baby. It's backup birth control. It's backup birth control. And unfortunately, people who will try to stay with the, oh, what if a woman is raped? Oh, what if about these medical issues? And they'll push and they'll push and they'll try to stay in that side. And they're like, okay, what if I grant you all of those? What if I grant you, let's say tops, it's like 5%, all the different scenarios that you might be suggesting, but it's probably less than that. Let's just grant you all of those things. Would you still support banning all the other stuff? And they would say no most of the time. They'd say no most of the time when you talk to these people, because they do want it as backup birth control. They want death to be an escape hatch. You can't afford the baby. You don't want a baby. Oh, you got to finish school. Oh, you got a new job or whatever. Yes, you should be able to kill your child to get out of that. But that logic doesn't make sense. You wouldn't apply it. Let's say they had the baby. Let's say they're like, we're going to make it. We're going to try it out. We're going to try this thing out. And all of a sudden you got a screaming newborn and you're not too sure anymore. And so what does daddy do? Daddy goes over in the crib and he puts his hand over the baby's mouth and the nose until the baby stops moving. Should fathers have the right to do that? What if he just, let's say mother and father agreed to it. They're in college. They don't want college to be interrupted. No, their logic is no, they should have killed the baby earlier. It's still the same human being. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It's an unjust killing, regardless of when you did it. Regardless of when you did it. Michelle Obama's a scumbag. Barack Obama is a scumbag. They're scum. You can say, don't have anything nice to say, don't say that. Stop. I can say what I want to say. First Amendment. Scumbags. Why are you encouraging men to do this? Because you might say, oh, support women, support women, support women. But not all these men who are taking your advice and want to keep abortion legal are going to respect a woman if she wants to keep the baby. They're going to coerce her. So many women report that when they have an abortion, that they don't feel that it's free from pressure. There's outside forces pressuring. There's parents pressuring them. Sometimes there's doctors pressuring them. Someone told me the other day that the doctor, she was pretty far along. She was around 20 weeks. And the doctor said, are you still sure you want to have the baby? And he only asked because it was her fourth one. Nothing was wrong with the baby. It just seemed kind of weird to him that she would want 4 kids. So he just wanted to make sure that she knew that she had an option. And men are certainly pressured women are certainly pressured from their boyfriends or lovers or whatever to abort. Pressured, paid off, whatever. It happens all the time. Why are we encouraging men to be terrible? Why aren't we encouraging men to accept responsibility? You make the baby. As soon as that baby exists, that is your child, and you have a responsibility to them. It doesn't start the day they come out of some magical vagina, okay? There's nothing that magical about it. There's nothing that magical about it. The baby was human and alive and yours the entire time, and you had a duty and responsibility to them the whole entire time. The whole time. It's your child. That doesn't stop being true just because they didn't come out yet. Men need meaning. Men need responsibility. And to say, hey, you have your own goals, you have your own life, you have your own ambitions. It's okay to kill your way to achieve. It's okay for you to kill to achieve your dreams. It's okay for you to, in the life of your child, to achieve your dreams. If a man could be that selfish, if a woman could be that selfish, they could be that selfish toward other people in other kinds of ways too. We should encourage, sometimes you got to encourage people to self-sacrifice. And you have to encourage people to be responsible, especially for the people they bring into the world. Because that's how you really grow up. That's how you really become a grown-up. When you start realizing that not everything is about you. And sometimes you have to serve. Other people serve you when you're a child. They serve your needs. The things that they clothe you, they feed you, they shelter you. And when you start having to service others, that you grow up real fast. Perpetual children. That's the problem with these Democrats. So many of them. Perpetual children. That's all these people crying because Washington Post didn't endorse their candidate. And they probably didn't, again, Bezos probably didn't endorse her because their economic ideals are stupid and they're concerned that she's going to lose. That's probably why he didn't want to endorse her. Didn't probably want his paper to do that. And they were crying about it because they're perpetual children. We're just endlessly selfish. This is so selfish and disgusting. And it weirds me out, especially Obama with his, I don't want my girls to be punished with a baby. That's your grandchild. That's your grandchild that you're talking about. Your hypothetical grandchild that you're so willing to lay upon an altar of self and slay. It's sick. It is so sick.
If your wife is shivering and bleeding on the operating room table during a routine delivery gone bad, her pressure dropping as she loses more and more blood, or some unforeseen infection spreads and her doctors aren't sure if they can act, you will be the one praying that it's not too late You will be the one pleading for somebody, anybody, to do something. And then there is the tragic but very real possibility that in the worst case scenario, you just might be the one holding flowers at the funeral. You might be the one left to raise your children alone. See, these are just some of the ways women die during childbirth. And I don't want to be a downer, y'all. But in many cases, there is no warning and things go bad very quickly. And when it happens, every second of hesitation or delay can lead to devastating outcomes. So
I'm gonna pump the brakes right there on that video. This really ticks me off. My niece is almost a year old now. My sister, my second youngest sister, she had preeclampsia after her baby was born, and we could have lost her. And that was her 5th child. She loves her kids. We all love her kids, beautiful children. And me and my mom went to go visit her at the hospital after she had the baby. Plenty of doctors that were in the room, set off alarm bells. One doctor came to speak to us. It was like, oh, there was some bleeding. It's not like in a danger zone right now, but there was a lot of bleeding. And she was trying to reassure us, but they were downplaying it. And we stayed with my sister. She ended up bleeding more after that. And we had to do another code and get more doctors and stuff in there. And it was rough watching her. And then they did end up sending her home when they seemed to be all done. And but she actually had issues after that. And so she said she still wasn't feeling well. And she ended up going back to the hospital. She told her doctor that she wasn't feeling well. Like the day before she went to the hospital, she was too sick to even fix her kids' dinner. Her kids ended up like making themselves sandwiches or whatever. She felt so bad, and we're like, you got to go back to the doctor. So she went back to the hospital, and they had to treat her. And if she had waited a few more days, they wouldn't have been able to do anything for her. So, just going to the hospital and knowing, yeah, she's right. Very quickly, things can go bad for you. It's true. There's risk to pregnancies, but it sickens me the way that they do use women. Because my sister would never intentionally in the lives of her children. She thinks that's disgusting. And if she had become a number, had become a statistic, among like the 750, 800 women who do pass away after some kind of complication with pregnancy, and they'd want to point to and say, see, this is the reason why we should be able to kill 1 million babies a year. I'd probably want to punch someone in the face. I'm not saying I would do it, but if someone intended on using my sister so they could electively kill a child so someone could go to college unobstructed from their responsibilities, I'd feel like fighting. I'm not saying we would. I'm not saying we'd go blow for blow, but I don't appreciate Michelle Obama. I don't appreciate any of these people. I don't. Yeah, things can go bad really fast, but these women who they try to use, they may never there was a case with a woman where someone was like, oh, look at this, an abortion could have saved her life. And I was watching a live on TikTok, and someone had brought up a case, and they start looking through the case, and like, this woman literally never wanted an abortion. Like, well, but an abortion could have saved her life. She didn't want one. She didn't want one. They will still use these women who would never, ever get one to try to justify all the other ones. It's her choice, right? It's her choice, right? But they'll still say like, oh, abortion could have saved her life. They'll still use them. Anything to stack the dead bodies of babies. They will use them. So I don't appreciate Michelle Obama. I don't. So yes, when you have a difficult pregnancy, you should monitor them very closely and try to do what you can to preserve both lives. But if you have some kind of medical emergency, that's usually will occur pretty late in pregnancy. The fastest way that you can alleviate it is going to be to induce the labor. Maybe the baby can't survive. Maybe they can. My sister's had some we had a concern with my nephew Noah, because she had stopped feeling the baby at one point, and we all came together and prayed on Sunday, and she went to the doctors and stuff, and they just had to keep observing her, and she was high risk with the next pregnancy too. Once you hit like 30, you're high risk, and if you're overweight, you're high risk. There's lots of things that make you high risk. That doesn't mean you're gonna die. That doesn't mean that you can't have the baby. But people need to understand, we're so used to telling women to go get that bag, go get that education, get everything now, and then wait all super late, and then they can't conceive, and then you have all these women trying to do IVF, and IVF is very unsuccessful by the numbers, and then they have high risk pregnancies because you're telling all these people to put off making families, which is something that is very fulfilling and will help people grow up. But you're telling them you have the kids young, they're not part of the plan, kill them. Kill them, go fulfill your dreams in college and whatnot. And then have your kids. If you can. If everything still works, fine. Anyway, I assume this person is gone. If someone had said something about Trump being a criminal, in different cases and disenfranchising people's votes, yeah, those things are alleged, just like Russia collusion stuff are alleged. I'm not saying he always had kind of the best kind of behavior in that stuff, but I mean, you due process and all that stuff. As far as the Bragg case, that was the dumbest thing, and that's going to be overturned. But you want to call him a felon or whatever. People using that indictment and conviction to call him a felon, knowing how corrupt that was, is just insane to me. It just continues to prove how willing these people are to do anything to achieve their goal. Absolutely anything to achieve their goal. Anyway, we are almost about to hit 2 hours, so I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. I talked through everything I wanted to pretty much talk to today. Went quite long, but that's okay. Appreciate you guys watching live. Appreciate you guys in the comments. I see you guys saying you appreciate what I do. I appreciate you guys for watching, taking the time, for commenting, for watching back. Yeah, I don't like these people. I don't like these people. My vote for Trump on election day will be personal. Will be personal. Which I didn't even get a chance to talk about this, but they're burning like ballot boxes, by the way, the drop boxes. There's at least 2 that have been burned. So always been a terrible idea. I would be so nervous about putting mine in a drop box. Like go drop it off. Like I mean, you can mail it somewhere, like to the centers or whatever, but I would or you can go to the clerk's office and fill it out. Go to your local clerk's office and fill it out if you want to vote early. But I just, it just seemed like a terrible idea. And I'm assuming that would be like if they can catch the people, because I don't know how motivated they are to catch people doing crimes in Portland, but I'm assuming that would be a terrible punishment and fine and stuff. Yeah, but hopefully it doesn't keep happening. It kind of reminds me of something that happened in the show Succession, but that will take too long to explain. So we'll talk about more of the Dropbox thing tomorrow. Someone said they believe in voting day of. I prefer voting on the day. There's just so many things that can happen the day of. Like, my dad had COVID in 2020, and before anyone's like, "Oh, did he get the vaccine?" This was pretty darn early. It was November 2020, 2020. And so they weren't really rolling that out too much at that point in time anyway. And my dad is the kind of guy who would take the some kind of medication, and it's like 1 out of every 100,000 or 1 million or whatever will catch something, and he'll be the one. So we're very particular about different things that he puts in his body. So but anyway, he had caught COVID, and so he or I don't know, he went to the hospital. He could have had gosh, something else that he had before that made him real sick. But they just put him on the COVID wing before they even tested him. So, you know, whatever. So he was too sick to vote that day, election day. So so he didn't get to vote in 2020, and Trump was his guy, but he didn't get to vote. So you know, I can understand people wanting to really go ahead, clock in, bank early, because you never know what's going to happen. But in a perfect world for me, like voting election day, one day is what I would prefer, because I think there's so many, it just really bloats up the number, the dollar amount on how expensive elections are too, and how earlier you have to campaign, and how long you have to canvass and have people out there. So if you're like a smaller candidate or something, it's really, I think it gets really hard for you to keep up with that momentum, especially if your opponent has way more money and stuff. So there's all kinds of reasons why I'm not fond of it. Like there's new information that people learn up until election day, you know, that could alter stuff. Like when Biden debated Trump in 2020, the last election, people had already voted by the time they had that last debate. So it's really insane to me, like how early voting is and stuff. But I don't know. People are so accustomed to it. I don't know how we're going to really put that genie back in the bottle, unless there's some kind of repercussions or whatever that people start saying that we need to roll that back. But anyway, anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. I'm writing a juicy article right now. it's pretty juicy. I'll try to have it. I don't know if I'll try to have it posted today, but I still have to like put a lot of links and stuff on it. But it's juicy. But I guess I did practically post an article today. I had that post about Shannon Sharpe that I put on YouTube and Facebook about Kamala Harris and the gun thing. But check out the content on the site. Make sure that you guys keep sharing the 50 reasons video not to vote for Kamala Harris video, and the top 10 Trump hoax video. Please share that one, and other things that I make and put out. I thank you guys for being supportive and for sharing my stuff. Larry Elder shared my video, by the way, last week, and he said he's going to try to put it in as a podcast. So that's pretty cool. Also, on again Sunday, I will be in Ann Arbor for a book fest, and I'll send out an email with this information too. And I got to send out an email my actual Ninja Dust, because I have not yet. And on on the 8th, 9th, and 10th, I'll be at Motor City Comic Con, so that'll be very fun. So got a lot of things coming up, and it'll be a super busy week for me, because that's the week of election too. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be on Newsmax on Wednesday morning. So that'll be cool. I'll try to make sure that's recorded and I can share with you guys. But they want to talk about the election in Michigan and stuff, because I'm in Michigan. So that'll be pretty neat. I'm also recording a podcast. I'll be a guest on someone's podcast on Thursday, but it's not gonna be live on Thursday, so I'll have to keep you up to date when that actually airs. But that should be really fun too. So got lots of little things going on. So God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.